All the prisons here in Colombia, they are tough. This one, it means I fight with two guys in Mexico too, in jail. One of them is dead. The other one, I take out eye, that's right. And the Colombian flowers is come out from the Mexican skull, you know? And my stars, 3 times in jail, 3 times be out.
John Fernando is a notorious thief, and he has no compunction about using weapons. That's how he earns his living, and he hopes to make a lot of money. Many of the inmates never learned any other way to make a living. It's the easiest way, albeit a hard one, that usually leads directly to prison. John Fernando is leaving the prison walls for the first time in 3 years. Naturally, he is heavily guarded, as is the case with every prisoner transport. There is a great danger of escape and a risk that accomplices outside the jail will try to free the prisoners. Whereas the guards usually only carry batons, here they protect themselves with bulletproof vests and a gun. So far, all attempts to escape or to free prisoners have been thwarted. Such transports take place every day. Inmates often pretend to be sick in order to get out and then smuggle things back in. Colombia is a country in which bribery is normal. This is how many prisoners obtain contraband from the hospital, which they then smuggle into the prison. And to prevent this, the inspections are very thorough. Even though it's a prison, there are still drugs here. Many of the inmates are addicted or take drugs to make their everyday lives more bearable. Since the guards don't always find everything, drug-sniffing dogs are used. Diego, the new inmate, knows that the first hours in prison are decisive.
You can't cause problems. If you do, then you have even more problems. You have to behave really well in order to get released early. And when I get out, I want to help my grandmother.
New inmate processing also includes a medical exam. Anyone found to be sick is not allowed to have contact with the other inmates. The risk of infection is too great. At 5:45, the guards close the cells for 12 hours. From now on, the prisoners must stay in the yards of their respective cell blocks. There is no opportunity to spend time alone, find peace or quiet, or enjoy privacy. As he does every morning, Nicholas, the boss, marks his territory. 14 people belong to his gang. Each has his own jobs, handed out by the boss, of course.
Buddy, help with the cleaning. Get out of the way so they can clean. Clear the court.
The prison has rules and routines, but the prisoners expand on them in their own way.
Some people clean in exchange for a sentence reduction. But since they can't keep everything clean themselves, 2 or 3 people help out. On Sunday, they get paid for it. We demand 35 cents or cigarettes. We don't keep the money, but pass it on to the men who do the cleaning.
Money is prohibited in the prison. Payment is made in cigarettes or telephone PIN numbers. They're worth a lot here, as they enable contact to the outside world. In order to use the phone, inmates have to have a PIN number which gives them credit. The telephone cards themselves are provided by family or friends on the outside. The more rules there are, the more people break them. Nicholas sees himself as an intermediary between prisoners, but also between inmates and guards.
I have to stop the fights that break out here. If fights take place, I lose my status. I am the people. I'm the one in charge.
Most of the inmates accept Nicholas. He must fight regularly to prove that he belongs at the top of his cell block. The guards tolerate Nicolas as boss as long as he works in their interests. If he doesn't, his will be the first head to roll. The inmates know that too.
There's always one person there in case things get chaotic. But this person must have character, be strong. Otherwise, many people will try to bring him down and take his place. Like a president is in charge of his government, there also has to be someone here who's in charge of the yard.
Officially, the guards are in charge of the yard. But there's a big problem. The guards can be bribed, but they try to avoid conflicts with the inmates. The guards know that there are drugs here and that many inmates use them. From morning to night, the inmates smoke marijuana, take cocaine, or get high on bazuco, a cheap byproduct of cocaine production. It all goes on right under the guards' noses, but they put up with it, since they can't stop it completely anyway.
There are many ways for forbidden substances to find their way into the prison. They can be brought in by visitors on visiting day, or they can be thrown into the pavilions from outside. There are many ways to get contraband inside.
Throwing things over the prison walls is one of the most popular and effective ways of smuggling contraband into the jail. Quick as lightning, one of the inmates grabs the package that's been thrown in. A lot of thought goes into the concealment of smuggled goods. Drugs, weapons, and cell phones are wrapped up in many small pieces of paper. Everything is quickly distributed and hidden until the guards have nothing left to find except the letters that are also in the packages. And the prisoners explain them in their own way.
They were letters. A family member decides to write and sends them.
One example, I was arrested with an accomplice. He's in the other yard, so he sends me a letter to tell me we have a hearing on a certain day. The letters are about that kind of thing.
The penitentiary's location makes it an easy target for this kind of smuggling. The cell blocks are surrounded on one or two sides by public streets, and the yards have no roofs. Not all the packages make it to the yards. They land on the roofs and then on this table. The lieutenant is taking pictures of the contents of 15 packages that were all thrown in 1 week, but that didn't hit their target.
We have a couple of greenish substances here. Looks like marijuana. And the stuff here comes wrapped in individual portions. It's another way to smuggle drugs, swallowing them or hiding them in body cavities. That's why the guards often can't find drugs, but the dogs can.
Only a fraction of the packages remains on the roof. Most make their way into the yard, but that doesn't always mean trouble.
According to Colombian law, possessing, selling, and transporting drugs is illegal. If we find someone with more than 20 grams, that is more than 20 grams of marijuana or 1 gram of bazuco, if we find someone with more than this dose, then we prosecute him.
Even in prison, this law applies. Prosecution means a longer prison sentence. The mills of justice grind very slowly in Colombia. First, the prosecutor stipulates a sentence that the prisoner is allowed to challenge. But until that happens, Years often pass. Thus, although most of the prisoners have not yet been sentenced, they sit behind bars for years and wait.